Hello everyone, in this tutorial I will model that object. What is that? It is that Google Hangout thing, I believe. It's not real, it's a concept design. Actually, it's not gonna be perfect match, but I will try to get pretty close to that. I will also show you how to unwrap these objects, three objects, and use that bump map with Bodypaint. So let's get started. Let's start with a plane. Let's make it 4 by 4 for the segments. For the width and height, I will make it 10. So I'll make sure that this number is easy to remember because I will use this width and height later with cloners. I can make it editable. Select these polygons, make an extrude inner and collapse them. Select the center point and bevel that. So it's gonna give me a perfect circle. Can delete that polygon and I can select these, scale them as well. Also, I am gonna make a store selection because we will use these holes to extrude them like that, but I will do that later. Now I'm gonna add a cloner object. I want to clone them on the x-axis. So first thing, I'm going to change the linear, offset the x, and I know the exact width and height of my plane. It was 10, so let's put it here. I want 7 clones. Now I will turn off that cloner, duplicate that plane, hide that one. This time I'm going to make that hole smaller, like that. And we can scale them as well. Let's turn this on, enable clone object, go to clones and change it to blend. So it's gonna start from big hole to smaller one. I still can change the scale of that hole. Like this is the first one, this is the second one. If I select these and scale them, I can still change them. I think this is gonna be enough. Now I will duplicate that cloner object, press Ctrl. After that, press Shift, so it's gonna snap the position of that new cloner. This time I will move them and press Shift. I will offset it 5 centimeters, so it's gonna be right in the middle. In the second cloner, I will need 6 cloners. Now I'm gonna select them all, press Alt and G, press Alt, select Connect Object. This is gonna weld them and make them one object. I will press C, make it editable. Now I will select these edges, press Ctrl, extrude, but remember to press Shift, so it's gonna snap 10 centimeters. I will weld these points at that lookout and weld these as well. I will do the same thing over here. Weld them at the lookout and weld these two. Now I'm gonna make another cloner object, press Alt, select cloner. This time I want to clone them on the Z-axis. But first let's change our mode to linear. Not Y, we want Z. We know the exact size of the first plane, which was 10 centimeters. Then we duplicated that to 2, so which makes 20. So if I put 20 here, it's gonna make a perfect cloner. Let's make it 50. Oops, sorry, 50. I will also extend the length of these edges, so select them, press Ctrl and extrude. This is gonna be enough, but I will need more resolution because I will bend that object later, which means that I will need these look cuts. press Shift and add these lookouts. Let me change that color to something like 50% gray. Change orientation. Now I will press Alt, select Connect Object. Sorry, press Alt, not Shift. So now I can create a FFT deformer and put it under my Connect Object, which will automatically fit that FFT to my cloner. But make sure that it is visible in your viewport. Enable deformer. So if I press fit to parent, it's gonna automatically fit to our cloner because of that connect object. I will use that FFT later. Now I will need a bend deformer. Let's create that. First thing I need to know which way it bends. Let's test that. Not this way. Not that way, the opposite of that. So let's make it 180 degrees. Yes. Now I will change the sizes to match my cloner. Let's move it somewhere here. Let's check that from right view. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure that it fits in the bend deformer. Now I am gonna select them all, press Alt and G. And increase the strength of the bend deformer. So 360 will not be enough, but we can increase that until they meet. So this number looks okay. They are not perfectly matched, but I will use a connect object later, which will weld these points automatically. So don't worry about that. Now I can select that FFT deformer, select the points in the middle, and move them. Now we have a problem. If you look at these holes, you will see that they are all stretched because of that bend deformer. And also that FFT. But we can fix that. It's gonna be eyeballing, but I don't think nobody will even notice that. So first thing, let's select our first object, double click on these edges and scale them on the z-axis. Same for each of these holes. I am scaling here, but also I am looking at these holes too. I think the top one looks okay. Now let's switch to that side. Okay, it looks fine. I will duplicate that object and hide that one. Maybe we can use that later if we make a mistake. I will press Alt, select Connect Object. But first I need to find my seam. Yes, right here. You can see that if I enable my Connect Object, it's gonna automatically weld these points. To make sure, I will add a subdivision surface. Yes, seems perfect. I can make that Connect Object editable. Press C. And remember this selection that we sort. If I double click here, I will select all these edges automatically. Now I will select extrude. Then I will do that one more time. But I will press Shift and change the rotation of these new edges. And I will make another extrude, and I will change the rotation one more time. Okay, press Q to see the result. And it looks perfect. If you find these edges too sharp, you can select these edges and dissolve them. But I want them like that. I will extrude these edges, double click on them. And it is flip cuts. Same for the bottom. Now I will center my axis. As you can see, it is very off. So let's go to mesh, axis center, and execute. After that, I need to change the position of that object in my world coordinates. Let's set them to 0. If I enable my work plan, it's gonna be right in the center. Now it's gonna be a lot easier for me to work because I will add a sphere to close that cap. I can do it like that. If I control and extrude them and collapse them, I can go on like that, but this is gonna create a lot of triangles. It's gonna be so dense that it's gonna slow down our viewport. So we don't need to do that. Instead of that, I will create a sphere, change it to hexahedron. I will set segments to 14, so I will get that center edges. Make it editable, select center polygon, edges, fill selection, delete, and extrude these. Scale them to 0. But it's not a perfect circle or disk. If I create a disk, you will see that these points don't match. But if I select my sphere, enable snap, and move this point and snap them, I will get a perfect disk shape. Alright, I don't need that disk anymore. I can delete that. I will press Shift and add a smoothing deformer to this one and make it editable. Current state object. Also, let's center the axis of that object too. I will scale that. Since this is a low poly, I will make a subdivision surface so I can see the edges clearly. So these edges are already selected. I will switch to slide tool, press Ctrl and slide, make a fill selection and move these up. Then I will make an extrude inner, then scale them. I will do this one more time. This time I'm gonna push them down. I will make an extrude, press Ctrl, scale, and I will need these loop cuts. Let's slightly move that object. And maybe we can scale it a little. Maybe we can make another slide and extrude these polygons. For the bottom part, I can duplicate that object, move it here, change its Y size to -1, so it's gonna be upside down, and move it here. Also, I'm gonna make these into one group, so subdivision surface, bolt effects, both of them. I want a different shape for this one, so I'm gonna make a loop selection, fill that selection with the selection and delete. I will connect these edges with stitch and sew, press shift. After that, I'm gonna make these polygons flat, scale down to 0. Yeah, something like that. Maybe we can push these a little more. Let's try to UV unwrap these. Recording that, let me put that here so I can delete that. Let's switch to UV edit. The first one is the middle one. I will rename that to middle. These one the top and bottom. Let's start with the top. I will select all the polygons, go to top view. I will move that keyboard to here so you can see. Now I will say frontal. After that, I will go to relax, uncheck cut selected objects and apply. Now I can go to UV picking and hit apply. Let's see UV map. Looks perfect. Let's do the same thing for the bottom polygons. Frontal, relax, and maybe a little rotation. For the middle part, first thing, I will reset all the edges, select all them and reset UV. Select all the polygons, projection, and hit cylinder. I need to scale that. I will select non-uniform scale. All right, that looks good. Now I will go to UV picking and apply. Let's check that with UV map. Perfect. The inside of these circles are not perfect, but it's not going to be a problem because I am not going to texture here. We can use a materials projection for that, so don't worry about that much. Now I can switch to 3D Paint. I will only texture the top object, so let's enable our Bodypaint 3D setup wizard. Select all. I will only select top object, say next. Don't recalculate UV. We have already did that. I just want a bump channel. Let's make it 2K and say finish. Now I can paint my bump, but first I will go to texture and import my bump map. Then I'm gonna select them all, go to texture and go to bump, go to layers and paste it. Let's put that over here. I will go back to my bump. Then I will select that layer this time. Ctrl C, go back to bump and paste that over. I will slightly scale that by pressing Shift. Let's check that in our 3D view. Now I will select my first layer, go to filter, other and invert. Also, I will go to my material, go to bump and increase the strength so we can see better. I will select the second layer. I will do the same thing, other, invert, but I don't want that text to be that visible. So I will lower the opacity. Also, I will change my materials color to 60% gray, so it will match with the other object's color. Alright guys, that was it. Hope you liked that and learned something new. Before closing the tutorial, you will see that if I switch to my model mode, my texture resolution will be dropped down, but we can go to our material viewport and set it to 2K. Alright guys, see you in the next tutorials. Bye.